Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Ben Hart Shoots.
Good luck.
All right, gentlemen, we made it. It's scared. Guys, welcome back to the channel. I have something exciting for you today. I have been testing these out for a while, so I have more experience than just today with these items, but today we are talking about, if you want to show all of these, the recoil reduction systems from DPM Systems. So DPM Systems was kind enough to send all these out to the channel. This is not a paid sponsorship. I don't have any monetary affiliation with DPM Systems. However, I do want to give them a massive shout out. They were willing to send me all 4 of these recoil systems before I had like any subscribers. I was like, I think I had like 550 subscribers, no views, nothing. And they were cool enough to support a really small channel. I'm still a crazy small channel, but that being said, just that speaks volumes to the company itself, which is really awesome. And also a quick shout out to Springer Precision. They were another company that helped me out back in the day. If you guys don't know, DPM Systems makes these recoil reduction guide rods for multiple types of pistols. We have one for the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 right here. We've got another one for the Springfield Echelon right there. We have one for a Glock 43X, or in this case, a Shadow Systems CR920 XP or CR920 series. We want to just, wrap them all into one in the CR series. And then one for the Shadow Systems MR or DR920 full-size pistol series. So we have 4 different recoil reduction systems. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you kind of the ideology and the concept around what they do and why they're different. Their claims is that this reduces recoil, this improves reliability, and it reduces wear on your barrel and locking block and the components of your slide. I'll throw up a graphic right here that kind of shows you how they work. But to get into it, we will talk about, let's use the Springfield Echelon for an example. So they have captured recoil systems, which look like your traditional recoil spring you would get with a Glock or an M&P, but these are the adjustable. And as you can see for the Echelon specifically, we have the recoil system itself. This is the actual recoil spring right here. Very high quality steel, well machined, no machining marks, nothing like that. Very high quality stuff. And then you have a bunch of different springs here. Each one of these springs have a different weight, a different poundage, and that can help you tune your recoil system for the pistol or the ammunition that you like. Or in my case, as you notice, this says this is just Springfield Echelon. This is not Springfield Echelon comp. So there are springs here that can work for the non-comp version or the comp version, a wide coverage of options, and you can kind of play with and tinker with as you decide which ammo you're going to shoot for competition, or maybe you want to run a certain self-defense ammo, but for some reason it's not enough to get the slide to move, or that's kind of a bad example, but you get the idea. These will give you the option to tune your slide almost like a buffer system in an AR to get it to run whatever ammunition you like, which is pretty awesome. You've already seen the graphic, but you can see it right here. It's a 3-spring system. There's one here on the back side. There's one on the inside of this tube. You can't get to it, but it's on the inside. And then you have your main spring on the outside. How this works, and I'm going to do my best to explain it, is like a traditional recoil spring. I'll do this off camera, so YouTube, same difference, doesn't get upset. So a traditional spring right here, like most of them, except for some Glocks, Gen 5s have a dual capture spring, is one single flat wire spring on, in this case, a polymer guide rod, but usually a metal guide rod. And although it is completely beneficial or completely manageable, it does a fine job of operating the pistol, it may not be optimal. And the reason is you have one spring compressing, doing the job of soaking up the recoil and the pressure and the energy from the shot being shot down range, and one spring also in charge of throwing the slide back into battery, chambering the new round. And sometimes that can be a little bit too much, or it's just not a very refined system just by the reality of one spring is trying to do all those different jobs. With the DPM systems, I'll throw up the graphic again. There's a spring that compresses upon initial opening of the chamber and the slide. So as soon as it breaks open, one spring is engaged right here on the front. As it goes back, the slide goes all the way back. Instead of the slide pounding into the locking block, you can hear it. That hard metal on metal sound is the slide and the guide rod and the barrel and everything slamming together on the backside kind of harshly. And then the spring again returns it to the front of the recoil system, the recoil operation. The DPM Systems has 3 separate springs that take care of each one of those operations, and together they cause the gun to recoil a little bit less. It saves the slide from slamming back into the locking block, causing wear and damage over time, and it also gives it more power, but not so much that it throws the slide forward so hard and causes the gun to dip, but it throws it back forward with spring poundage pressure, but not too much to cause it to be an unpleasant shooting experience. Kind of hard to explain. I did the best I can. It is pretty advanced stuff. They've been around since, I want to say 2012. I'll put the number up if I'm wrong. They've been around for a very long time. These things are extremely well vetted. They're used in a lot of law enforcement agencies, militaries, and professionals use these recoil systems. They do claim to improve reliability, and what I can say is the Shadow Systems CR920 XP is notorious for having, any Shadow Systems really, is notorious for having a 200 round break-in period, right? That was true for this one. It took me about 58 rounds to break this gun in from beginning to end, to having no malfunctions and being able to run 115. It will run 124, 147 plus P, stuff like that just fine. But because there is so much pressure being expanded out of this port, out of this compensator, excuse me, sometimes, depending if you're running really light loads, like this HSL ammo is 115, can be a little bit lighter. The compensators may not give enough slide energy to the slide to cycle the next round, extract the old one, whatever it is. With this DPM Systems recoil spring, I have had 0 problems. 0. I've run this in competition with this, 0 problems. And I'll throw up a comparison. It does seem to shoot flatter too. I'm gonna do the best I can to get this all on camera and try to convey how it feels to shoot. Unfortunately, guys, you're just going to have to do some research, see if it's worth it to you, buy one for your gun, give it a shot and see if it works. Or, find one on the pre-owned market and try it that way. So, you know what, since I was talking about it, let's start with the CR920 XP first, and then we'll go to the next ones. Guys, we all think about protecting ourselves and other people in the 2A community, but what about protecting your personal info online? That's where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. Data brokers are companies that buy and sell your data without your consent. And what they do is they buy it and they sell it and they make billions off of it, but then they're legally required to remove your info if you ask them, but they make that process super difficult and way overcomplicated on purpose. Aura automatically reaches out to these companies on your behalf and requests that they remove your information from their databases, and they keep it off. I've been using Aura for a couple weeks now, and honestly, I am really impressed with how easy and simple the app is to use. And also, it's only been a couple weeks, and Aura has already requested from 34 different data brokers that my info be taken off of their databases. That's crazy, 34 in 2 weeks, that's insane. They even found that some of my data had been exposed in a data breach going back all the way to 2017. Aura also monitors your credit, alerts you to fraud, and helps protect your identity with real-time alerts, antivirus, VPN, and more. It's a all-in-one, easy-to-use app. Me personally, I use the VPN all the time because I am constantly using public Wi-Fi when I'm out traveling and editing these videos for you guys. One little small anecdote, it's kind of fun. Aura was able to tell me how many cars I've ever had in my life and every single model, which is kind of cool. I'm a big car guy. Turns out I've had 14 cars in my lifetime. That's cool and sad at the same time. I'm not really sure how to feel about that. Look, fellas, these data brokers are thieves, and I am not leaving myself exposed, and neither should you. So using my link down in the description, you can try Aura free for 14 days, and in those 2 weeks, you're gonna find out where your info is being exposed. Guys, you can directly support the channel by clicking the links that we provide down in the description for the sponsors that sponsor these videos. There are not many companies who are willing to associate themselves with 2A advocates or 2A adjacent people. So the ones that do are greatly appreciated. They're few and far between. So thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the description. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, so how we're gonna do this is I have all 4 guns and all 4 sets of recoil reduction systems from DPM Systems. What we're gonna do is, and the main claim, aside from the reliability and the reduced wear on the slide, is that this is a recoil reduction system. Now, you're not gonna feel much recoil reduction just shooting one single round. The biggest way to see how they work is in rapid fire or double taps. So what we're gonna do is shoot a bunch of double taps with the factory recoil spring, and then we're gonna swap out the recoil spring for the DPM Systems and see how it improves or gets worse, who knows. We're about 7 yards away on a very small miniaturized little silhouette target. Here we go. Okay. Okay, That's 18 rounds. So let's go ahead and swap out the recoil spring. By the way, guys, we are using all HSL ammo 115 grain. In my case, the lightest one. Because these are all compensated guns, aside from the M&P, we're gonna go with the lightest spring. It's a little bit more weight on the initial break open of the slide towards the back. It doesn't hit that locking block quite as hard, okay? So that's where the less wear comes from. Get a shot of these real quick. So now granted, all these guns are compensated. I'm a fairly decent shooter, so the groupings are gonna look pretty good no matter what as far as general grouping. So we're gonna be, you know, it might be tough to see an improvement at least from 7 yards, but we'll find out. So, oh, this is my worst enemy is this tape gun. If you guys have watched any of the other videos on the channel, there's our Echelon review is really funny because I fight with this cheap tape gun to get this thing to work. All alphas.
All alphas, dude.
Ooh. Dude, what is this?
Want me to do it?
This thing's having like a little bit of premature squidgiation, if you know what I mean. Dude. That should be good enough, I think. So we've got another 18 rounds with the recoil reduction system in it. Let's give it a shot. So again, it's going to be very hard to tell a difference on camera, but the first 2 shots I pulled pretty bad. That's a little bit more concentrated right there. You can tell the spread from the stickers here. That right there, I pulled these 2 of my first 2 shots. This is very linear. It seems like the gun recoil is a little bit more up and down versus sort of like an up and down kind of squiggle like this was sort of starting to have. So at least in the Shadow Systems CR920 XP, as far as we can tell, we're gonna get some slow-mo here in a minute. It seems like it actually may improve it, at least in shooting dynamics. Now again, these are not only about recoil reduction, these are about reducing wear on your slide components, as well as reliability. And like I said, there was a noticeable improvement with reliability on different types of ammo types with the CR920 XP, specifically with the DPM Systems recoil spring. So that's not bad. Let's move on to the Echelon. All right, guys, so now we have my Springfield Echelon comp right here. This is the standard length frame with the compensated chunk ported barrel on an FDE frame with the black backstrap from the factory frame. So it's kind of a little bit of a spicy little paprika cheesecake over here. What we have is the factory guide rod in here. And now the factory guide rods in the Echelon, you might be able to see, are plastic. There hasn't been any reported issues with them so far, but it is a polymer guide rod with a single flat wire spring. Now from factory, incredibly smooth. These feel very nice. I'm super impressed with these. We're gonna see how the recoil impression is with the Echelon comp, and then we're gonna see how it shoots with the DPM Systems recoil reduction recoil spring. I'm also rocking the Lead and Steel PB3. This is the V2. So this just came out recently. This is a Acro competitor, and I have been very impressed with it so far, although did have some initial issues with the screws. We'll talk about that in a different video. And Springer Precision Magwell, Springer Precision single-sided extended magazine release, and the Holosun PID on there as the light. Keep in mind, these comparisons aren't going to be straight across the board because we do have weight on the front of the slide with a flashlight, different things like that. So we'll see how this goes. So there's a lot of trigger freeze there. I'll be honest with you guys, we are getting fatigued. It is blitzing hot outside in Texas right now, but after I got that kind of trigger situation worked out, pretty good group, a little low left. Haven't zeroed this red dot yet, so, but again, only 7 yards. Pretty consolidated group, and a couple of flyers there with my pacing on the trigger. I was throwing them up top. But if this silhouette paper was off of this, these all would likely be in the A zone, except for a few down here. So overall, honestly, I've always been impressed with the Echelon in its factory configuration, but we'll see if the DPM system does any better. Let's go throw it in there. So this one is a little bit different than the Shadow Systems. So this one is way more obvious with the kind of that back of the cyclic progression, how it feels. Not quite as smooth in sound, I will say. There's a lot more springs happening versus the single flat wire. So this is a little bit, still feels very smooth. But if you guys can hear this, Do you hear how muted that is? Towards the back end, there's another spring literally resisting me from hitting that locking block all the way. And what that causes when you're shooting, this is gonna slide back and not slam against that locking block and really throw the muzzle up. It's gonna kind of softly buffer it to the back and then softly throw it back forward. Kind of confusing, it's pretty wordy. This is a much more technical video than I'm usually used to explaining, but we'll find out how it does here in a second with the lightest spring on the Echelon. These are so useful, but golly, the ones that are for shooters on, what is that, double alpha competitive shooting, they're like 80 freaking dollars. What the hell is up with that for a sticker gun? This one's off of Temu or AliExpress or something, and it's fine, but it's definitely from AliExpress. Anyway, let's go ahead and do the same thing with the Echelon. Now we have the lightest spring from DPM Systems, and let's see how it goes. I'm getting sweatier by the second and tireder by the second, so hopefully my biomechanical deficiencies, big word for you guys, are not gonna hold me back on this. Okay, here we go. Let's make sure we're good. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I can feel in my hands, I feel like the recoil is less, but I really don't think, at least for the Echelon comp, this specific configuration, these are two flyers. Obviously, with that amount of deviation, these are obviously my fault. This, to me, is about the same as the original grouping. I don't know, what would you say? You think so? I think so. I would say it's about the same. Very good, very, very good. So in this case, I would say that and again, guys, this is like super rudimentary. I would say that the benefit for the Echelon is the reduced wear and the reliability aspect of it. Maybe not the recoil reduction, because this is a compensated pistol and the Echelons are punched way above their class too. So let's go ahead and do the next one, which is gonna be the M&P 2.0 metal. Okay guys, so we now have my Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 metal. Real quick context, this started its life out as a spec series. That's why it's that kind of signature green color from Smith & Wesson. The spec series has a huge Faxon compensator on the front of it. So this recoil system actually might have helped a lot with that. I don't like massive compensators. I don't like guns that are, 19 miles long. What I did is it has this window cut in from the factory. I have another barrel that I have ported, which you might see some footage here of that. Because the rest of my guns are already ported, I wanted to go ahead and do one that isn't. One is a normal barrel. And this one is a factory Smith & Wesson barrel for this gun. We have a CV Life optic on here. It's called I think it's called the Wolf Covert. They sent that to the channel for review. I appreciate that, CV Life. Haven't used it yet so far, and kind of curious on how it's gonna go. It's a green dot, extremely budget, which doesn't necessarily mean bad, it just means budget. We're gonna do a first magazine with the factory recoil spring in here. All right. Make sure we're zeroed. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's take a look. So I'm gonna say again, very similar to the grouping of the Echelon. Nice tight group here in the middle, and I threw some high on the top. It seems to be fairly vertical, so we'll find out if that's a contributing factor of the factory guide rod versus the new one. I will say the dot was a little bit dim, and I'm pulling the shot as soon as I see the red dot back here. So we'll see how the DPM Systems recoil spring does in this one. Because this is not ported, we're gonna go with the medium weight spring on this one. So let's go ahead and swap it out. So similar to the Echelon, the M&P has this gun especially has the characteristic of that dampened noise on the far back position of cycle. So from here, locks open very light. As you pull it back, doesn't even hit the locking block hardly at all. Very dampened. It feels like you're fully compressing a spring, like it's bottomed out. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like there's two pieces of flat metal colliding. It just feels like a spring is getting bottomed out. And this one throws it forward really fast. So we'll see how that affects it. 7 yards, same thing at the barrel. Let's see how the DPM Systems recoil spring does on the M&P 2.0 metal. Check zero. Good to go. Here we go. Wow, okay, so that's a pretty big difference. For this one specifically, that really was working pretty well. I was starting to get kind of fatigued towards the end, and that's where I started throwing them a little bit high. And a lot of that is probably me just sort of bouncing the muzzle up and down. But for the first like 10 or maybe 15 rounds, main grouping down here by the X, doing really well. Still, honestly, pretty well centered here in the center. Compared to the other one, it seems like this, and obviously this is a very rudimentary test here. Seems like there's a little bit more isolation in the center on that target versus this one. This one's kind of more linearly spread or vertically spread up and down. This one has a higher concentration in the actual area that I was aiming versus the shots that I'm pulling. So, I mean, for the Smith & Wesson, I would say that works pretty well. Now, this, another thing to consider, there is no light on this gun versus the other ones had lights on it, which do add weight on the front. That can affect how much the gun bobs. And that's actually a big reason why I don't usually use big, heavy lights. I got that PID for 50 bucks. I just threw it on the Echelon for the looks, honestly, for some photos and media. But on my carry gun, I use a very small light. I do not like a lot of weight on the front. And that's also a big reason I don't like long slide guns. For my shooting characteristics, my shooting style in general, I tend to have the guns tend to dip a lot when there's a lot of weight on the front. And I have to recover that and then I end up bobbing and it takes longer. So this one, in this configuration, seemed to work pretty well. So for the Smith & Wesson, I would say the recoil reduction was actually pretty beneficial. Let's do the last gun, which is the Shadow Systems XR920P. All right, guys, last gun, 6 o'clock. It's hotter than right now. Oh, that one's gonna make my mom really upset when I think about it. You know what it's hotter than? It's hotter than a Porta-John during summer camp.
Porta-John?
Yeah, Porta-John. That's an old term. A porta potty, whatever. It's hotter than a porta potty during summer camp. You know what I mean? You got to take a hot, steamy shit. You got to go so bad. You had Salisbury steaks from dinner last night. Didn't use the restroom before you went to sleep in your cabin. You wake up, you're like, oh God, I gotta go. You go to the bathroom, it's still 100 degrees. Nice sweaty turd. Those are the best. Anyway, sorry about that. So we got the Shadow Systems XR920P. This is one of my favorite guns. I think this is one of the most balanced and best shooting factory polymer pistols out there. I'm excited to see if the DPM Systems improves it even more, because this one I am foreseeing this one may perform the best just because I happen to shoot these very, very well. So we got same ammunition loaded up, HSL. Let's go ahead and see how this does on the far left target. I am rocking the Streamlight TLR7 HLX. This is one of the best, if not the best, concealed carry compact lights on the market. And I have the, it's got a bunch of powder on it. I have the Meprolite MPO Pro F on here. This is Meprolite's fully enclosed pistol optic. Super awesome. I'm a big fan of this. The reticles are very nice. So if you guys want to check these out, These are definitely worth the money. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we perform. 7 yards, same thing on target. Confirm 0. I haven't zeroed this dot yet. All right, we're dead on. Here we go. Okay. So initially I'm stacking these things. This is pretty good. So this is a PMAG, so 17 rounds. So the majority of all the bullets went right here. We just sent them through the same hole. So already this is performing very well. A little bit low left, typical Glock stuff. But I would say probably the best performance so far out of any pistol we shot today, right from the factory. So let's see how the DPM Systems recoil reduction springs do on this gun. So I got them right here and I have it pre-set up for you guys. This one, not quite as dramatic as the M&P as far as that final recoil in the back end. Still dampened a little bit though. Overall, feels about the same as factory as far as, you know, how it feels in the hand. We're running the Metgar magazines. These are Metgar Glock metal mags. Haven't had any issues so far, except I did have a round dive down one time and cause a malfunction. Could have been the round, who knows, but so far so good. Man, my right hand is getting sweaty, guys. Hopefully that doesn't affect this test here. Confirm 0 real quick. Okay, put my ear pro in. God dang. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest, the first like 2 or 3 shots, I forgot to double tap. I was doing just kind of rapid fire, but I felt like the recoil was less with this system. However, not even muzzle flip, but the felt recoil in my hand, I felt like the gun was pushing into my hand less, which is likely because it has a smoother operation with all 3 of those captured recoil springs on the DPM Systems versus the factory one. However, just because a gun recoils less doesn't mean you're gonna shoot it better. Especially if you're used to shooting a gun in a certain configuration with a certain recoil operation. And we kind of see that. It's still I mean, I would call this pretty good. Most of these are in the same area. A little bit less low left and kind of more central left. Had a few flyers when I was shooting rapid fire, but I would say, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, no competition, that this is much better than the DPM Systems. Now, that being said, if I shot this some more and I got used to the new recoil impulse, I guess you could say, I almost guarantee you I could become a more proficient shooter because it did cut down on recoil. If that's the case in the Shadow Systems, one gripe that people have with Shadow Systems is that they may have some problems. They're not super 100% reliable all the time. Me personally, I haven't had any issues except for the ones that are expected in the 200 round break-in, but especially with these compensated versions of the Shadow Systems, they tend to be a little bit ammo picky, stuff like that. So in this case, based off this arbitrary test, we're running loose and fast here. I would say that for the Shadow Systems XR920P, the benefit is the reliability and the softness of recoil, aiding in more longevity, not beating up the parts of your slide quite as bad. As far as recoil control, give me some time and I can feel it. I can feel that I will be very effective with this because the recoil is less, but initially we're not seeing the improvement we did on the M&P. So let's go ahead and break these down and wrap up the video real quick, and then we'll do our final conclusions. All right, guys. We're going to conclude on the DPM Systems recoil reduction systems, kind of a mouthful. I would say, well, firstly let me say this. I want to be honest and transparent. I am not the most expert shooter in the world. So a lot of this stuff is hard to quantify because there's a lot of human error and intervention involved. However, you just kind of have to take my word for it on how it feels on the hand. The performance is going to be based off a lot of your setup, the way you're going to set up, and the skill as a shooter. That being said, this recoil reduction system overall, I can attest to the fact that it does improve reliability. If that's one thing that you're looking for, if you're looking for to make a Shadow Systems per se more reliable, if you're looking to make a gun that you have ported that lets off a lot of pressure, a lot of gas, you want it to run lighter loads more reliably, I 100% stand by the DPM Systems recoil systems because I have seen it improve reliability on all my guns, and all my guns are ported. They're all ported or compensated, every single one, except for this barrel in the M&P, but I have a ported barrel on that one. Right here, check this out. Just a little fun little look at what a ported barrel looks like after you take it out. Tons of carbon and stuff all over there, pretty fun. With the M&P, I felt like it really improved it a lot. It improved the recoil, it improved the recoil impulse in my hand, felt more balanced, and it actually improved effect on target. My actual accuracy was increased with the M&P. The Echelon, I feel like the Echelon is already a really great gun. I'm gonna get some shit in the comments, especially from my guy, because he says I slob all over the Echelon all the time. Maybe I do, but the Echelon deserves some slob, okay? Sometimes you deserve to slob on some stuff. The Echelon from factory is so well equipped, it's so well balanced, it has so many great features, it comes in a great value. The recoil system is already very smooth on the factory one. The Echelon is hard to improve in terms of recoil. It already seems like they did a really good job with at least the comp version. It's the one I have experience with. The DPM Systems recoil system didn't necessarily affect my accuracy on paper. However, the reliability and the ease of wear on the slide components is a plus. And if you're someone who shoots a heavy amount of rounds, like high round count, duty style guns, maybe you're in police work and you do a lot of training in your department, DPM Systems will be good because you're putting less wear on the critical components of your barrel, the lugs, slide, things like that. So in that regard, not super effective as far as recoil mitigation in my hands, right? In my hands, but overall, still a improvement to your gun that really, I don't see many downsides. It's not like it adds extra weight. It's not like it adds extra, anything. It's just a recoil reduction system. Like if the Echelon or Glock or whoever included one of these from factory, you wouldn't even care. You wouldn't even know. You're oh, it's just a recoil spring. Like they're OEM quality stuff, which is great. It's not like it's a aftermarket modification that seems very obvious. Now let's go to the Shadow Systems CR920 XP. This is my EDC gun, and like I said before, I have to remember, how did I do with this one? Do you remember how I shot with this one? Was it better or worse? I can't remember. We've done so many. I can't remember. I think it was a little bit better in recoil. Now, this is my... We'll play it back. Yeah, we'll play it back, and if I'm talking out of my cheeks, I'm talking out of cheeks. But in this gun with the DPM Systems is that it improved my reliability a lot. This is the one Shadow Systems gun I've had that did have a longer break-in period than the other one. So it was only 58 rounds. They recommend 200. It was only 58. So really it's not that bad. I mean, you should at least be putting 58 rounds through your concealed carry gun anyway before you carry it. Otherwise, I feel like it's kind of irresponsible in my opinion. But This one did struggle sometimes with really light loaded 115 Callaway ballistics ammunition. And ever since I put the DPM Systems recoil spring in there, not only does it feel a little bit smoother, a little bit lighter, it also has chewed through everything. I've shot HSL through it. I've shot, not Shaw, it's, oh man, I can't remember the name of it. Just like some really cheap ammo, like the worst ammo, dirty, disgusting steel, like the worst. And it has chewed through everything. So the recoil spring has made this gun not only shoot incrementally better, but it has allowed it to be 100% reliable with every ammo type I've thrown through it possible. And this gun now, I think we're at almost 2,000, no, maybe a little more than 2,000 rounds on this. So it's fairly well broken in. I have a good idea of how this pistol works. Last but not least, the Shadow Systems XR920P. So this is a beast of a handgun. I don't care what anybody says. I'm gonna go on a tangent. Just if you're gonna buy a Shadow Systems, or if you're thinking about Shadow Systems and you hear people give them criticism, the criticism is not necessarily unwarranted. They do have a 200 round break-in period that they do advertise. I don't know if that should be a thing or not. I think just understand what you're getting into before you buy the gun. If you want a Glock, but you want it to be nicer, you want it to have more sight serrations and better texture and all the different things that this gun provides, you want a Shadow Systems, just understand what you're buying and what you're getting into. Basically, your expectations will be met. They're not gonna be crushed if you have a couple malfunctions in the first 200 rounds, whatever. And understand that is something to consider when buying this gun. Now, that being said, this is the best shooting gun I have. It is the most accurate, the softest recoiling, and is the most pleasant to shoot. My favorite gun is my M&P because I connect with this gun better. I like the way it feels in my hand, things like that. I'm not a huge Glock guy as far as the Glock format, but this is the softest and best shooting gun I have, bar none, okay? The DPM Systems recoil spring in here didn't seem to increase my accuracy. Actually, as a side effect of it recoiling less, it did have a high effect on recoil itself. Because it was so drastically improved, I ended up shooting worse because I am nowhere near used to shooting this gun with that DPM Systems in it. With some training, I think this would actually increase my accuracy in rapid fire a lot with the DPM Systems. I'm almost at the point of recommending a DPM Systems recoil system to anybody who buys a Shadow Systems, because I feel like a lot of the issues Shadow Systems have, at least in my experience and what I've seen online, is failures to eject and failures to feed, which tend to be, unless it's just ammo or maybe some sort of barrel sizing issue, that tends to be because there's not enough energy pulling the bullet out or not enough energy pulling the bullet back in. And with the DPM Systems, it has seemed to solve all of that. So not that you want to spend another $100 on a recoil system after you've already spent $1,000 on a gun. I totally get that. But again, if you are attracted enough to Shadow Systems to desire what they have, then if you want the best performance out of it that you can, get a DPM Systems recoil spring. In conclusion, overall, I think that the DPM Systems recoil mitigation recoil systems are definitely worth it. They range anywhere from $70 to $110 depending on your gun. They've been around for so long. I think they're from Greece, actually, now I think about it. They have been around for so long that they have configurations for, I mean, every single gun under the sun. Ones that I have, like Ruger P89s, like just guns you haven't heard of in decades, they have configurations for. Check them out. They have been around for a very long time. They're extremely well known. They're very well vetted. These are probably some of the only recoil spring improvements I can think of that you would put on a pistol that don't affect its reliability to a pretty heavy amount. These are almost seem like OEM upgrades, like OEM plus, right? Imagine like a Honda Civic and then a Honda Civic SI. It's the same OEM quality, but just a little bit better. That's what DPM Systems is. So in conclusion, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's a little bit of a long one, a little bit of a wordy video. I get it. It's kind of a wordy topic. There's really no way around it. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. Hopefully you found it entertaining or informative. We have a bunch of stuff coming up. We've got a bunch of videos with, let me pull it out here. We have a PSA dagger that was sent to us by PSA. We're gonna do some durability testing and some durability testing on the Siley optic that Siley sent to us as well. That's pretty exciting. Never shot one of these before ever, actually. Kind of exciting. And we also, at GunCon 2025, we met Ross Martin, and Ross Martin sent us the Ross Martin RM1C right here. This is a very exciting gun, high value pistol with a lot to offer and surprisingly enjoyable to interact with. So I'm really excited about this one. So we have a bunch of videos coming up, guys. Pistol reviews, rifle reviews, products, optics, all kinds of stuff. Stay tuned, turn the bell on, like the video, subscribe, follow me on X, on Instagram, everywhere else you can find me. I greatly appreciate it. We've been having a blast doing this stuff. Even though it's hot, we're having fun to some degree. I don't know, my wife may not be having fun right now, but shout out to wife for holding the camera. Until the next one, talk less, shoot more. Peace, guys. And at least to just slow the guy down, unless he's on PCP or something like that. In that case, just put it up to his and just let him go, you know what I mean?